came to our unit, so I knew him. Yeah.
Do you think kids have it too easy these days?
Well, I tell you, they don't learn a work ethic. Now, we knew what we had chores to do when we had work to do, When we come home at night or in the morning before we left, we had cows to milk and things like I said. The kids done all this. When I was in this fish business, we'd sit around a tub of 300 fish, and we had to remove the entrails from them and clean them up and get them ready for the market. But that was one of the things we'd do. Man, I got so I was good at it too. So it was quite interesting. I grew up busy, and I still like to be busy. I sit down a lot anymore though.
I think you've earned it.
So did you get paid allowance for all your chores when you were a kid?
No.
No, it's just.
You got to eat there and you got to live there. And if you needed some money, Dad would, like if I was going to take a girl out on Saturday night, he'd give me $1.
How early did you start working with your family?
Well, I started driving a tractor when I was 9 years old.
9?
It was a brand new John Deere B, 1936.
And that was a big step forward because.
Oh, yes.
Was that your first tractor?
Yeah, it was our first tractor, and we traded off 16 head of horses on that. But see, we had to do everything with horses. Yeah.
Can you talk just a little bit about what was involved in keeping horses in good shape and getting them ready for work every day and what they did?
You got your horses in and you fed them. You couldn't feed them any dry hay or musty oats or anything. And if you had dry hay, you carried a sprinkler can and watered that hay down, because it would be like having, what am I trying to say, make them sneeze and cough, and so we had to do that, which we had hot, dry weather back there. And then we had to have your harness up in shape all the time. And you had to get your horse collar on first. Some of them big old horses, I stand on the manger to put the horse collar on. I remember, and then you drug that harness back up over the top of the hames and stuff. Yeah.
What kind of horses were they?
They were a draft horse, and they'd weigh probably 1,200–1,500 pounds. Yeah. Yeah. All colors. We had bays and grays, all kinds of them.
And the horse would work a whole day, right?
Yeah, but you had to keep them watered and give them breaks. You stopped at the end of they'd tell you kind of when they wanted to stop. Whole team, and when it got 6 o'clock, by the time they came out of the field, they didn't want to turn around either.
Right.
Oh, is this the
We're going to finishing up here in a couple of minutes,
Okay.
yeah.
But that, taking care of horses, that was a science in all by itself. Them people knew how to do it, them older fellas. My dad was no good on a tractor. At 9 years old, I was probably better, and I learned more about that tractor, and I could take the distributor off from it and work on it and this kind of thing, And he just thought that was wonderful, because he's not mechanically minded that way,
Yeah.
But he sure knew all about horses and old wagons and stuff.
Well, that was great. We've covered a lot of information today, and thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Ruth. And now we're going to do the student portion of this. About what you've researched, and tell us what you want to tell us about the experience here. Who's first? First of all, you are?
Claire Thurman.
Claire Thurman, okay. Do you think living on a farm was a hard life?
I definitely think it was a hard life. Just 7 days a week, always working, and your quality of life depended on how much you did and how the crops grew and how your animals were and that kind of thing. And but it sounds like maybe during the 30s and stuff, even though it was extremely, extremely hard, maybe people in the country were a little better off than people in the towns, just because they had more resources to work with.
And can you conceptualize what it would be like without electricity? Do you have any personal experience like that of what it would be not to live with power?
I can't even imagine. I mean, I've heard stories from my grandparents because they grew up in a farm in Missouri, and just having no like indoor plumbing and no electricity, how they had to just read by little kerosene lamps, and like the hazards with fire, and just not being able to actually see what you're reading or whatever. But I can't even imagine. I think, well, I don't know, it's very hard.
So in your studying of Weld County, did you get the sense that it was a hard place to make a living?
I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I think it would be a hard place to make a living, but I think maybe everywhere has its own problems and difficulties. Obviously, the water problems is a major thing, and the irrigation ditches and stuff, I'm sure, helped a bit. And it just seems like maybe the climate and stuff for farming made it more difficult than more fertile areas in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good.
So, do you want to go ahead?
Your name, please, is?
Jessica Cannon.
Okay, Jessica.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just start with kind of the same questions that you asked her. Well, I actually grew up on a ranch, so I kind of know what that's like. I grew up with cows and horses, but it was a little different because I just had hay and not grain. So, from my experience, it was really hard having a hay ranch because, at least nowadays, everyone kind of, resorts to city jobs and stuff like that, and it's really hard to make a living. But I think the reason why my parents want to keep it is because, like, you have the land, and even if you have a city job, if the land means something, it means something more. And luckily for us, we still have our water rights. They're really protected. But something that we have to deal with is, gravel pits. Because I don't know how gravel pits work up here, but gravel pits in Steamboat, because we have a lot more gravel. So there's one right across the street from me, and those are really like a big part of debate right now, and same with the water. And actually, I grew up without television as well, so I know what that's like. I watch movies, and I mostly played outside though, but I grew up without television until I was about 10 years old, and I never had the internet until I was about 14. So I kind of grew up without all that technology, and I didn't get a cell phone until last year, or actually this year. So I kind of know what that's like. And we also have a well, so I know how that's a lot really different, because if your well wasn't working or something was wrong with it, it was that's the only water you had. You couldn't call somebody. Unless to come fix it. And we have a lot of plumbing problems, a lot of electrical problems. Our electric goes out a lot, so I kind of would
So
spend
do
a
you
whole
think you
week
grew
without.
up you've become a more self-sufficient person
Yeah.
than town kids, for example?
Yeah, I do think so. And also living on a ranch, you kind of really learn how to appreciate the land, and that's kind of why I'm really thankful that my parents have that. It's because you can always go out and get an education. That's fine here at CSU, but to have that land there is really important. It's really beautiful. I don't know. I really appreciate that kind of stuff that a lot of people maybe wouldn't have experienced. So.
Okay, very good. Her name is?
Hannah Martin.
Hannah?
And I thought today was very interesting and informative. I learned a lot about, I thought probably the most interesting part for me was the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl, learning about how the topsoil and dirt would build up on the fences, and then they just move over to start farming somewhere else. And
Okay, you, do you remember the advent of electronics in your world? What you compare to what his experience prior to television? Okay, you get all your information now from electronic media, right? Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you were deprived from access to media? Have you ever been in a situation like that?
Yes, but just for temporary.
10 minutes or something. Okay. All right, yeah.
Actually, I went on a mission trip over spring break, and it was not reliable electricity or anything. We were in the Ukraine, and it was.
Okay, so you have some reference
it
to
was, It was definitely
going on.
difficult
Yeah,
to
right.
live without the reliable plumbing or electricity that kind of comes off and on
Right.
whenever, and not having the internet or TV or phones or anything like that.
Right.
So I guess that was probably the extent of my experience being deprived from electronics, but
Right.
I think they, I don't know, they definitely have place in society today, but it probably does make you a lot more self-sufficient to not have those for a while. And
Right. Okay, very good. Yes?
My name is Ute Thiele and I'm from Germany, and I did grow up on a farm too. And I do have some pictures with me.
Oh, yes, please.
So this is the old farmhouse.
Take a zoom in on
It's from 750.
that. Yes.
And so I share some of his experience and so I did work at the farm in my childhood. My parents did have animals till I was 18 or something, so
Mhm.
we did have, but finally my parents did give up that business, and so now my family has this bed and breakfast place in that house, and so my mother is still working there, and we using the old rooms, and
Mhm.
so the people have an experience to live on a farm and in an old house, and so that's interesting.
What is happening with farming in Germany? What's the trend?
Also there have been a lot of farmer persons, but they all did give up that business. We did rent the farming, also the countryside, and they did get other professions,
Yeah.
or the different people did just get bigger places, and so the, more animals and just larger places, so that they can earn money with that.
So are small farms now becoming big farms? Is that what's going on, or something different?
No, actually, the small farms, they do not exist anymore.
They don't exist anymore?
No.
Oh.
Just the houses exist and the people living there, but they work somewhere else.
Okay, so many of the people even of your age, who had farm life,
Mm-hmm.
that's gone away. That the farm family, the family on the farm is, no one's going back to work on the farms. The
Not really,
kids
because you really cannot make any money.
can't make
with
any
that.
money on it, right?
But at our case, my brother's still living at that house, and we try to keep up the idea, and because it's a really old house and we have quite an area around that, so yeah, we do work in the garden, and my brother is working as a landscape person now, so he was trying to be connected with land, and we still have a tractor, so
Right.
yeah, we still connected to that thing.
But in general, it's the same thing that's happening here, that farming is yielding to either suburbs or tourism. Because
Yeah,
of
so
the-
we are more in the tourism.
Into
scene now.
tourism, and you have to, you know this about Colorado. Farming, at one time was the main economic reason for Colorado. Now it's tourism. So the dollars that we're gathering up in this state, just as you say, maybe as Germany is the same, that, that now people can't make a living, they can't carry on that farming tradition
No.
because the money is not there to sustain and the land is too valuable for other reasons.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Thank you very much. A former farm girl. There we go.
That's right.
Finally, last, your name is?
Melissa Grossman?
Melissa, great. Did you enjoy this today? Did you get?
Yes, very much. I think it's interesting thinking about, like, there was less technology and there's certain disadvantages to that. We have all our cell phones and computers and internet, and I think that does give certain advantages for us to do things faster and all of that, but at the same time, I think it seems to me like they had a lot of advantages not having all of that stuff too, like learning
On the basis of community.
Right.
That created, it gave you a de facto community.
Right, yeah, like if you're not spending all your time watching TV and like going to outside sources for entertainment and all of that, it seems like you'd spend more time with your family and like learning traditions and people in the community and more of a sense of like connectedness with all the people around you, which I don't know, it's something that like for me I look for in my life that is kind of hard to find these days because everyone's so busy doing everything with their internet and like more high-speed life, I guess. But I think it would be really interesting to live back when it was more.
Most of us will tell you, though, we don't really want to go back there, right? We don't
I
really,
suppose that'd probably be true, but,
you know.
but family, like our whole family, ours is still right there in
Yeah.
one corner, all my sisters and my cousins and everybody's there, you know.
Right, and I wanted to point that out to all of you, that there's a historian whose name is Brinkley, and he's from Louisiana, taught at Tulane. His name is Douglas Brinkley, and Douglas Brinkley is now launching a whole campaign for oral histories of people who have been involved in just being displaced by the floods in the Gulf. So, you know, just what this point was that the community, the people that he grew up, the people I grew up, a lot of them are still in the same physical geography. Many people are still around, so there's still that network of people and familiarity. And so I guess I want to leave you with this point, that as you watch what happens to the Gulf Coast and New Orleans in particular, you're going to discover that when an entire neighborhood is displaced, and the German example, no better than the German example, when the war devastated parts of Europe, you know, people could never go back to the same neighborhood because that neighborhood didn't exist. It was gone. And so, for that point of view, living here in the West, we've been very fortunate and very insulated because, you know, yeah, there's a dust bowl, but that didn't run off everybody. You know, we have tornadoes occasionally, but very minor. There really just haven't been many things in the history of Colorado that have disrupted and displaced the people. And so that's why Colorado now, you know, Colorado's now a couple hundred years old. It only became a state in what year? Who knows? Anybody know what year?
Sorry.
Okay. 1876, Colorado actually became a state. Okay. So in European terms, that's no time at all. You're talking about this structure is built in 750. But the lesson too is that, you know, even though you have centuries and centuries of people living together, you know, you have a big enough catastrophe that can destroy that neighborhood, and you have to basically start all over. And so, but do just pay some attention when you start hearing about some oral histories of the people, the experiences of those who go through this, who went through the Katrina experience. And in 5 or 10 years, you know, you'll think back to this day when you think about, you know, when you were learning about oral histories and what you're learning from oral histories in the process, because you're going to be able to then say, okay, well, you know, that makes sense now that these people have a different entire life based on having to start over. Great. Thank you all very much. And thank you very much for coming.
Yeah.